There's nothing we can do here, Chief. We should leave the magistrate alone and meet up with the Aizu Domain's men on our own. Kondo nodded in agreement, but his frown didn't fade. Yeah, I agree, that's our only choice. We must look for an officer of the military commissioner. Alright. We'll find them then. We'll go to another gate. Whatever. And with that, the Shinsengumi set off to find the soldiers of the Aizu Domain. Night had fallen by the time we arrived at Kujo Beach. After we left the Fushimi magistrate, we made for the Aizu Manor. Once we arrived, we related our encounter at the magistrate's office and asked for new orders. The manor official we met with directed us to go to Kujo Beach, which we did. However... What? The Shinsengumi is to join us? We've received no such order. I apologize, but could you go speak to the commander at the manor? Nagakura had apparently had enough. What the hell? He was the one who told us to come here, god damn it! You wanna fuck with us? Fine. But you're gonna be disobeying a direct order from your superior pal? You really wanna do that? Man opened and closed his mouth a few times and fell silent. Kondo did his best to keep his voice neutral, but there was no hiding the grin that had spread across most of his face. I would like to speak to your commanding officer, if I might. Do you think you might be able to take me to him? Like, guys, this isn't hard. I just need to talk to upper branches. That's it. I'm not even pulling nothing. I just need to talk to him. You guys aren't even doing anything right now. At last, after a great deal of trouble, we were allowed to remain with the troops at Kujo Beach. The chief and the captains left the rest of us to go speak to the Aizu commanders. They returned sometime later looking tired and drained. Inoue, who'd gone with them, also wore a bitter sort of half-smile. Well, it would seem that the men stationed here are reserves and not the main force of their army. Their main force has been committed to the defense of Hamaguri Gate. Felt my eyes go wide. You mean they're threatening the Shinsengumi like reserves? If the reserves weren't called into battle, then the Shinsengumi would never be given a chance to show their worth. Then why the hell they send us a message acting like this was some sort of emergency? We can't predict what might happen. We might be called upon to rush into battle. There's little else we can do for now. And all we can do is wait. Man. That's what I get for giving the guy with only 2 lines and 1 line at a time a southern accent. I can't even get into it in time. Dang it. There was a chance we'd be called to action during the night, and so the men chose to stay awake, ready to move. Just let us know if you need to rest a bit, Chizuru. You're always welcome to sleep on my lap. Oh no, I'm fine, sir. Harada laughed as I shook my head. Wouldn't be fair if I was the only one who slept. The men had to remain awake and ready to act all night. Getting really tired of this whole thing. All of Chizuru's things are like, the men can do it, so can I. Come on, Chizuru, you don't even have to go that far. Just be like, no, they're all gonna stay awake, I'm gonna do it too. I'm a soldier, I'm a real soldier, I'm not just a kid. I'm gonna do this right. At first I was far too anxious, but by dawn I was sound asleep. All around me, however, the men had kept a constant vigil all through the night. Even as I drifted in and out of sleep, I had seen them standing or sitting nearby, alert and watchful. It's okay. You tried your best. The sun had risen and I'd finally woken up when it happened. What? The crack of a gunshot tore through the morning air, and in the distance I heard the shouting of men and the clang of metal. The fighting had begun! The fighting against who? Why? What? The captains looked at one another and nodded. Time we left. I stared at him for a moment, perhaps not fully awake. Tired, not yet fully awake, until I understood what he was saying. Oh, right, the running, the hiya, fighting, yes. Pew pew! With a quick nod, I stood up and made ready to move, when... Stop! What do you think you're doing? We were ordered to stay here. During our lengthy march the day before, I'd never seen Hijikata mad. He'd left the yelling Nagakura mostly, and stayed patient when it was time to speak with the army officials, but this time... perhaps he'd finally had enough. I'm sorry, I thought your job here was to protect the Imperial Estate, but I guess you'd rather just sit around all day. We're here because we're supposed to be here if the Choshu assholes attack. Tell me, what are the Choshu doing right now? But we haven't received any orders. Hijikata was in no mood for excuses. If you've got any kind of pride in your job, then forget your goddamn orders and move. Okay. Man. Angry purple-eyed guy always making us do stuff. Without even waiting for a response, Hijikata spun around and stalked off fluming in a log flume. Where are we going? I didn't dare raise my voice above a whisper. Sato's eyes flicked down to me for a moment, and his mouth thinned almost imperceptibly. To the enemy, which in this case means Hamaguri Gate. All the way back there, we were just there. The battle at the gate is likely to be an intense one. You'd best prepare yourself. Alright, let's go. We're gonna have fun, right? Hijikata's fury seemed to have aroused the Aizu soldiers as well, and they followed the Shinsengumi to the Hamaguri Gate. Before long, we'd arrived. What? I'd expected a pitched battle, with hundreds of men locked in combat with one another, but what we found was something else entirely. One broken fence. God damn them. The gate itself was pockmarked with scores of bullets, and everywhere dead and dying soldiers littered the ground. Oh, this was obviously omitted from the picture. The acrid stink of firearms hung in the air. What I didn't see, however, was the enemy. It seemed that we had arrived too late. The battle was already over. After a moment of stunned silence, several of our men were dispatched to determine what had happened. Kando sighed. Whatever. What are the Choshu thinking? They've raided the Imperial Estate. How can they claim to be an Imperialist domain? Kando simply nodded. The Choshu would define themselves as among those who revered the Emperor, and yet they would attack his home? It didn't make any sense to me either. I was pondering what motive they might have when Saito returned. It appears the Choshu attacked Hamaguri in the early morning, but were repelled by the combined forces of the Aizu and Satsuma. Cool. The forces standing against them had been too much for the Choshu, and they'd been forced into retreat. I saw the corner of Hijikata's mouth curl up into a grin. So, Satsuma's helping Aizu now, are they? Times sure are changing. I'm interested. I want to see. What is this, Satsuma? Hit me. Once I get past the P's, the Satsuma domain, governed by an opposition daimyo named Shimatsu. Initially, they supported imperial unification, but eventually allied with the Choshu domain and other like-minded men in the interest of removing the shogunate. So this is where the other parties are coming in. They're starting to choose sides, and it's basically down to politics who's on what side. So one side's got the Shinsengumi, the other guys have got whatever, the other team. And so all the other domains are kind of falling into place, one side or the other, to basically create a two-team war. At least that's kind of how it's sounding. Kind of simplified, but I mean, it's all politics, so who really knows? Times are changing. Right. Satsuma and the Aizo domains hadn't been on the best of terms. In fact, the Satsuma were largely nationalistic, much like the Choshu. Unlike the Choshu, however, they'd gone to war with a foreign force at one point and suffered a devastating loss. Father told me that after that, Satsuma had begun to reconsider their nationalistic stance. Hard to be super nationalistic when you get struck down super easily by some opposing force. It's like, kind of, you know, deflate, in a way. There's still some of those Choshu bastards fighting over the Kuge Gate. Oh, snap! Hijikata's expression changed as he considered Haru's words. Before he could open his mouth to speak, Yamazaki appeared. Hey Yamazaki, what's up? Commander, we believe the men who led this raid are headed for Mount Tennu. Even though Kondo was nominally the head of the Shinsengumi, I'd learned from the men that everyone, including Kondo himself, generally deferred to Hijikata on most decisions. There was no exception. I could see that all eyes were on him. He was silent for a few moments, then I saw his mouth curve in a small smile. Well, looks like we've got our work cut out for us, boys. A ripple of dry laughter ran through the men, and I could feel their excitement in the air. Sanosuke, take your men to the Kuge Gate to deal with those Choshu bastards. Sure thing, boss. Saito, Yamazaki, I want you to figure out what the situation is here. I want you to hold Hamaguri Gate. Oh, as you wish. I want you to hold Hamaguri Gate. Do it, Saito. Your job's a tough one, Chief. I want you to go talk to the Aizu bigwigs. Oh, that's the Kondo. Sorry, I'm doing terrible right now. Talk to the bigwigs. Kondo tilted his head to the side quizzically. Some of those bastards are headed to Tennu, but some of them are just gonna run around and cause trouble. If we're gonna go after them, then we'll need to leave Kyoto, and you're the only one who can get us those papers. Of course. The Choshu are on the run now, but they could still do some damage as they fled. Pursuing them would take us outside of Kyoto, but the Shinsengumi's jurisdiction didn't extend that far. If we wanted to go after them, we needed to get permission from the military commissioner, and that meant the Aizu. I see. If the chief of the Shinsengumi goes to speak with them, then the military commissioner's office will have to listen to what we have to say. After what we'd gone through the day before, I didn't imagine Kondo's task would be an easy one. Still, if anyone other than Kondo went, not only would the Aizu be unlikely to grant their request, there's a good chance the Shinsengumi representative wouldn't even be heard. I'll do it. Gen, I want you to go with him. Somebody has to keep an eye on our chief. Make sure he doesn't go crazy, alright? Of course, I'll do my best, Commander. Another laugh ran through the soldiers, and Kondo's mouth twisted into a wry sort of grin. Perhaps he chose not to deny it because he knew they might. He knew he might go a little crazy. The rest of you are coming with me to Tennu. As for you, this guy. I was a warrior. I didn't have any political skill or connections either. Hijikata didn't know what to do with me. But pretty sure Hijikata knows exactly what to do with me. Suddenly I felt very much like dead weight. You can't go with Kondo, but other than that, it's up to you. Oh, alright. Hadn't occurred to me until that moment, but he was right. Kondo was going to meet with the leaders of the Aizu. If I went with him without wearing the Shinsengumi blues, it'd be a difficult thing to explain. Hijikata would be pursuing the leaders of the Choshu attack toward Tennu Mountain. Saito would be staying at Hamaguri Gate to protect it and to gather information. Harada and his men would be going to Kuge Gate to stop the attack on the Imperial Estate. The question was, where would I go? For you guys, all great choices. I don't think I have any infection for any of them. But we can look. Check our statuses. I don't think I've got really... Okay, a little for Okita, but... yeah. Hijikata, Saito, and Harada, which is the same order that those options appeared in, are all a whole lot of nothing. So I'm hoping there'll be something to break this. Going to be now a three-way tie.